Hey folks, I want to let you know about one of the sponsors of today's episode, AppFigures. AppFigures is the leading platform for mobile app makers to track and grow their apps, packed with tools for reporting, optimization, and competitive intelligence. If you watched our episode a few months ago with Ariel, you know how important it is to optimize your apps for the App Store. No matter how great your app is, if it's not noticed, it's not really worth your time and money to spend on. If you're making money, for instance, with subscriptions, you need to know and you need to stay on top of the numbers so that you can figure out what to do next. AppFigures has worked all this out. If you're a developer, sometimes some of this App Store stuff can be a distraction from creating and designing a really good app. But by bringing your core metrics to the forefront and calculating key data sets like MRR and churn, they make it easy to understand what's happening and why. And that gives you more time to really build your app and really design it well and grow your subscription business. If you're not sure where to get started analyzing your subscriptions, then check out the guides and the videos at appfigures.com. They have a really great YouTube channel. I'm going to post in the links below. There, they do things like This Week in Apps, where Ariel gives you updates on different trends of what's going on in the App Store as they change, both based on the customers you have, but also based on changes to the App Store as they happen. And also, once you get to appfigures.com, you have no excuse not to give them a try. They have a free trial available that will help you get started on building your audience and help understand how to get noticed in the App Store today. If you like it, then you can use our special code EMPOWER3030 to get 30% off for the next 3 months. You have no excuse not to give this a try. Again, use the special code EMPOWER3030 to get 30% off for the next 3 months. I want to thank the folks at AppFigures for sponsoring today's episode. Welcome to another episode of Empower Apps. I'm your host, Leo Dion. Today, I'm joined by Michael Tigas. Michael, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Leo.
You're my third developer in this bi-monthly, quarterly, whatever you want to call it, 5-episode series I'm doing with indie developers. We talked with Charlie and Mustafa, so really glad to have you on. Before we begin, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I've been creating apps since 2014, started off with building Android apps initially, right? Began freelancing in 2015 to 2016. Then eventually picked up iOS professionally about a year later, right? And I've been freelancing since then, and helping clients build apps, right, for the businesses. And leading up until 2019, at the end of 2019, started dabbling my feet in the indie life and building my own app. So it's been a pretty fun journey so far. I've learned quite a lot. It's been great.
So, am I correct in saying you were a freelancer before you did just iOS development, or were you iOS development and then a freelancer?
So I actually tinkered with a bit of Android straight after uni. I graduated into 2014, and luckily enough, got my first job probably about a few weeks afterwards. Because my university, I graduated from Swinburne University in Melbourne, Australia, and they had a software innovation lab with about 10 to 15 other developers working on prototypes for different startups. And my lecturer for the Android subject that I was doing towards the end of the year, he was I think 2IC of the lab at the time, and he let me he let me trial out for a month, seeing what it's like to build apps professionally, and dealing with clients, and dabbling my feet in that world, because I loved building apps towards the end of my degree, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, because I did an internship in IT help desk support as well. But after the year and a half of doing that, it kind of didn't scratch my itch. I thought it would be fun just building computers and fixing it, but I guess it's more fun when it's your own stuff, not other people's stuff. But had my first hit with Android, working on a staffing and management platform app. And I didn't even know what a startup was back then. And it was like a great learning experience, to say the least.
I can imagine doing help desk tickets. I worked in tech support for a few years, so I know what that's like. Not fun at all. Do you miss working in the Android space at all?
Geez, that's a mixed bag, honestly. Well, like, fortunately, I still do take on Android projects from time to time because, yeah, like when I speak to clients professionally, I say that I build iPhone apps and Android apps. So if they yeah need me to scratch their itch on both mobile platforms, right? Yeah, I'll do it for them, but it's yeah, like it was fun to start with because I was just fish out of water. We're just trying to figure out everything and yeah,
Was this all
architecture
Java, I
patterns.
assume?
Oh, I started in Java,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and then did that for a few years, and then Kotlin came around, which has been an
Yeah.
absolute godsend,
I was gonna say.
especially yeah, like with iOS dev, how Swift and Kotlin are like very syntactically similar.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's been great being able to use that and stay away from Java.
Yeah. I don't. Java is one of the few languages where I'm just like everybody has an excuse for the language they use, but I can't. I don't see it with Java. It's like such a legal web amongst and just not a very well kept language by the folks who own
Mm,
it. So yeah, I don't.
mm,
I never regret not getting into Java. So yeah. Um,
yeah. uh,
so you have really I guess no pun intended. You've really focused on a productivity app. Why another productivity app?
Mainly to scratch my own itch, really. It spun off an idea of like I used to work out of a co-working space, and made a few friends there, right? And I've been working from home ever since about I think it was March 2019, and uh, we still wanted to keep in contact. We made like I mean, yeah, the group of us, there's like three or four of us. We wanted to still keep in contact during the day, and like when we were at the co-working space, like we all went our separate ways, but we really enjoyed keeping each other productive throughout the day. Because yeah, like I was doing my own app stuff, right, and like you had people working in the like artist industry as well. And I think another person ran a software development company too. And yeah, like we started hanging out on Discord during the day, and jumped on video chat to I guess like make sure like we wouldn't speak throughout the day too much, right? But we'd stay on cam to make sure that we're like at the computer doing work and stuff. And yeah, we're dabbling with the idea of pomodoros, which is like a technique that helps you break up like a task into work blocks, structured work blocks and breaks, right? And I guess like with the idea of staying on rails to make sure you don't get distracted and yeah, start looking at like Facebook, social media and stuff, and YouTube binging, the whole lot, right? And we created we didn't create, sorry, we downloaded and installed a Pomodoro bot for Discord, and it was like a very rudimentary bot where you'd actually have to punch in like how many minutes you want to work for every time, what time you want to start your breaks, right? And we're just like copy pasting commands over and over and over, right? And the idea of yeah building I guess Focused Work, which is my productivity app, spun off that idea of like we got sick of typing in the commands all the time, and we thought, hey, like this would be a great like side project to actually build an app around, and maybe I could like start a time on my phone, and then yeah, like everyone else that was in the call on Discord could use their phone as well, and I guess automate that process. So yeah, scratching my own itch to kick that off. Yeah.
How did you decide, or how would you decide now, I guess, whether an idea is worthy of building an app? Because we all have ideas, but it's like sometimes those ideas might not. You might be the only person who really is going to use that app. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, funny you say that because like usually when I think through ideas, firstly it has to scratch my own itch because that's where my main source of motivation comes from to build it. I can't like the difference between like having like your own app, right, and like having the motivation to actually build it and like start that journey is so different to taking on a client project, right, where you're working on something that doesn't scratch your own itch, but the reward is obviously getting paid because it's client work and obviously expanding your connections and you have fun doing it, right? But For me personally, well, because time's so precious, right? And I honestly wish I had more than 24 hours in a day, or at least clone two of myself so I could work on multiple things at one time, or at least like have one of me to work and the other half of me to like, go and like, I guess like check out places around where I live and stuff. Because yeah, like time's super precious. So it's a big scratch in my niche, and obviously in part, um, like if I want to like put it up on the store, right, and sell it, like will people? Is it something that does it solve a problem? I guess like for people, and like will they pay money for it? So I guess those two big points that cross my mind every time I think of an idea.
What are some of your inspirations for like designing and building the app?
Um, I guess with freelancing, you don't have full creative freedom. Like even though you're steering the ship with building an app, right? And I've like over the years, I've sort of bootstrapped my process where like early on, I was fortunate enough to work for a startup, right? And I got to hang out with a really cool digital design team, which I'm still friends with today. And like in that 1 year patch, like I learned so much about like actually how to design mobile apps rather than just doing all the techie stuff and coding and I guess doing what I'm best at. And yeah, um, like with my bootstrap process, like I can take on projects where like I can sort of like handle the strategy, the design phase, the development phase, right, and launching and stuff, which is great. But you don't have full creative freedom for the product per se, rather than the app. And like building my own app lets me make all the important decisions, and like if I feel like something's not being steered in the right direction, I can sort of just immediately like take action on that. Whereas with client apps, like the business stuff is kind of handled by them. So if you know that
Yeah,
they're doing
right.
something that's like not going well, right, you can't do much to sort of yeah, I guess like prevent that from happening apart from obviously speaking to them, right? But yeah, like it's in a gut feeling that it's just like you can't like you lose motivation if things continuously don't go in the right direction. So yeah, again, that's the first main point, I guess, for yeah, why I'm inspired to like build my own apps.
Um, One of the things, so you've written extensively. If people don't know, they should definitely check out your blog. We'll put it in the show notes, but you've written pretty extensively about your whole experience. One of the things you talk about that I don't think we've mentioned in our series is the so-called MVP, or minimum viable product. What what does that mean to you, and how do you use that in the building of your app?
Um, yeah, so it's I guess creating a product that's like entirely focused on solving a particular problem. Um, so I like another fortunate benefit of working early on with a startup is that you adopt the lean mindset of I guess being able to quickly cut out all the ideas that are either one not going to take or they're going to take too much time to build, or two you need like user validation to I guess figure out whether it's worth going down a rabbit hole building something. So I like to keep things like real simple, and it's fun. Like it's a bit ironic that with focused work, like I've been working on the app for about a year and a half now, and I've gone down so many different verticals, more or less from a technical perspective rather than a product perspective, because being able to create my own my first app, which isn't like it started off as an iOS app, right, and then I expanded to iPad and then eventually the Mac, right? But going down each of those ecosystems like has so many different rabbit holes that it's crazy. And I naturally got sucked into it, which is like going against my advice of what I probably should have like well once you get in a rabbit hole you get so excited like
Right,
I'm naturally a developer, right? So
right.
yeah, it's just like I couldn't stop, but
I totally
yeah, like
understand where you're coming from. Because you
mm,
just get
mm,
one of these features and you're just like, oh, this is way too cool. Like, and
mm,
you might end up being the only person to use that feature, but it's so cool to see it like actually work. You
mm.
still want to spend time with it. So I totally understand. Yeah.
And I guess like yeah, going on from solving a particular problem, right? It's also equally important to build something that's small enough that you can get it out there and start talking about it, sharing. And if it sticks, then people like I guess if it sticks and people interested in paying for it, right? Then it makes like it's a more of a business decision to continue that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's a rocky ride, but fun.
One of the things you mentioned was migrating it or like moving it over to other platforms like the iPad and the Mac. Before we jump whole hog into the Mac, was there anything in particular when it came to moving focused work over to the iPad that you had to think about?
Um, yeah, there was. Initially when I launched the app, right, it scaled up as an iOS app to an iPad view, right? So you still had the it was just when iOS 14 came out with the whole like iPad OS like design improvements with the sidebar and whatnot,
Yep.
right? Um and yeah, it was I launched in, so just for context, right? So I launched the app in September 2020, right? And I
Hmm.
think if memory serves, iPad OS was out for a few months by that point, right? But the M1 MacBooks also got announced by Apple. And that was actually my first jump into like optimizing for iPad, like loading up the Apple Silicon optimized version of the iOS app on my MacBook. And it was really cool, like trying it out, right? But like very quickly you realize that it wasn't just going to work as a iPad or a Mac OS app, right? Yeah. But it wasn't like there wasn't too much friction. It was just thinking about like how to lay out, like how to, I guess, take advantage of the big screen. And like in particular, in Focus Work, there's a productivity tab that gives you an oversight of like your daily, I guess, your daily goals of whether you're completing a certain amount of like focused work, taking enough break time, um, your day, like I guess, like tracking that on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, right, and having
Hmm.
a quick oversight of your recent focus sessions.
Hmm.
Um, um, and I guess on an iPhone, that's all like a vertical scrolling list, right?
Right.
So you don't have to think about too much about how to present that information. But on an iPad, um, like the like you'd want to sort of have everything out like displayed on screen like in a glanceable format, so people can just like quickly look at what they need, right, without having to like mess around interacting with the device.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, how about now? Let's talk about the elephant in the room: migrating to the Mac. My understanding is that you ended up using Catalyst to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was
What's
quite interesting.
okay? So, what was the decision process there, and do you have any regrets with moving to using Catalyst? I guess to migrate it to the Mac.
um I wouldn't say any regrets because I didn't know any better when I did it.
Hmm.
I didn't know how to create a native Mac app, right? So
Yeah.
the idea of creating a separate app was just not going to happen because
Yeah.
one, I'd need to upskill in everything and like anything and everything related to building a Mac app, right? Like optimizing for the design patterns and obviously keyboard and mouse, right, rather than a touch screen. But yeah, it was great. Like to use Catalyst, but from early feedback that I was receiving from a lot of users is that they love the app on the Mac, right? And like you sit there and think about it, like a lot of productivity apps that involve you working on tasks are likely going to occur on your Mac rather than your iPhone or your iPad. Um, and like for example, with me, I'm always in Xcode all the time, right?
Yeah.
And like so many other developers, and um, having the app on your Mac, right? And I guess like having it sort of guide you through your focus sessions without having to dart your eyes away to like your iPhone or your iPad where you could get distracted by those other devices, right? It was like that stood out to me that I really need to bring the app to the Mac. In whatever form, you know, like I
Mhm.
like with a like taking a MVP like mindset I guess like with launching the app on the Mac, as long as I had something out there I could start getting feedback and seeing like you know the holes that people were finding, where like I could sort of optimize for a better experience as I went. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it seems like too, you get from a business perspective, unless you really need a lot of custom interface elements, like it does kind of make sense, especially early on, to just move to Catalyst if you already have an existing decent like iPad app, right?
Mm,
Like
mm.
there's going to be a lot of friction, as we've talked about in this show before, like sticking with Swift UI and like rebuilding the app, or having to relearn learn AppKit, which we'll get into in a little bit. Um, well, speaking of AppKit, I guess you say you have in here AppKit bridging. What is AppKit bridging exactly?
So basically, with Catalyst apps, right? When you well, there's an option in Xcode that lets you have the IDE optimize your app for the Mac UI, in air quotes, where like I guess converting iOS and iPadOS buttons to like the actual like physical like embossed button,
Yeah.
like for one element, right? But like everything, like the sidebar, clickable elements, and with bridging, it allows, I guess, iPad apps to or and iOS apps to take advantage of the Mac technologies that are normally not available through the Catalyst APIs.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so like one example for that is that like iOS apps have no concept of the menu bar, right? At the top, like along the top right of your screen, where you can I guess like display tidbits of information for other apps you got running, and bridging to AppKit allows me, I guess, to leverage features like that. So I can put like a running timer in it. I guess
Okay.
a description of what you're focusing on. So like when you're working on a task, right? You like some people like to have the timer on the screen. Some people like to just have what like a single focused task on the screen, right? And yeah, having that, I guess, supplementary like timer in the top right of the screen, they can always keep in touch with like whether they're supposed to be working, how much time's left, or whether they should be taking a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one example, I guess, of using Mac technologies, and you need to I guess like communicate between iOS and AppKit to do that. It's a bit of a rudimentary process, but once you get it figured out the first time, like it's pretty straightforward.
So maybe we'll get into it. What are your big projects you're working on right now? Is migrating from UI kit to Swift UI, and now you're going to go full universal app. What's that experience like? Where are you finding the biggest points of friction?
Honestly, it's a lot less friction building a universal app. Only, I guess, like the only friction point is having to learn how to create a Mac app, right? Because the difference between a Catalyst app and a universal app is that Catalyst, you're building an iPhone app and you're porting it pretty
Right.
much to the Mac, right? But with a universal app, from the get go, you can build uh, I guess like designs and workflows that cater to each platform, like quite simply, and not have to worry about bridging or I guess like um, thinking about how to mold a screen to two platforms, because you can just branch off where you need and build
Yep.
separate screens. And that's actually yeah, like I've started like I made a decision recently to diversify and start building more apps, right, rather than sticking on the one, because uh yeah, like working on the one app for the longest time, like I'm the type of person that wears my heart on my sleeve. So if something's not going good with it, like it brings me down. But if something is absolutely like like something fantastic is happening, I'm like buzzing and like on a massive high, right? And like I've identified for me personally, that's like something I want to like I want to reduce the amount of negativity and keep as much positivity as I can, right? So building a second app, diversifying, and building a universal app as well in particular lets me, I guess, yeah, create something that's like, I guess, from the get go optimized for each platform. Yeah, and it looks great.
So we've actually talked about this offline, but like my biggest challenge with designing a Mac app is finding really good like information out there in the same way I found iOS stuff, and doing it using Swift UI. What have you done to kind of update or upgrade your design skills when it comes to like building a Mac app and
Um,
specifically?
well, with a Mac app, first of all, using the native components makes the app look so much better. And focused work is
And
still
when you
like
say native components, are you talking AppKit or are you talking Swift UI?
so I'm talking I guess native according to the platform that you're using it on, right? So a Mac app, you're using the appropriate components that Mac users are familiar with, and iOS, same
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but with Swift UI in particular, it's been a godsend, like using it. Like there's no way I'd go ahead and build a multi-platform app and have to use UIKit and then AppKit because I'd have to learn AppKit first of all,
Yep.
um, and figure out how all that works. And like I'd rather use it in pieces where I need to. And Swift UI lets you, I guess,
hmm
drop down to that layer. When Focus Work launched, actually, it was a UI kit app completely, and it launched a week before iOS 14 came out. So Swift UI was still in its infancy stage in that, I guess, that 6 to 9 month block I was building Focus Work. And when widgets came out with iOS 14, that's when I started playing around with Swift UI. And over time, like I think I've got Focus Work to about 80 to 90% Swift UI now,
Wow,
rather
that's
than
awesome.
UI kit. And like I'm edging closer to like considering whether to like tick the box to have the Catalyst Mac app display the Mac components, right? But then again, with like I still need to spend more time with figuring out like whether those buttons that automatically converted from iOS buttons, whether they sit well, or like the UI structure,
Right.
yeah. But like Swift UI has been amazing. And like it was a no-brainer to start a new project with it. And even like I'm working on a client project now, and that for the first time it's been Swift UI from the get-go.
Yep.
It's just an iOS app, right? But
Yep.
um
I'm in the same boat right now with most of my client projects. We're moving to Swift UI. So yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like the biggest mind-blowing thing from a client work perspective with Swift UI is that for me, when it comes to going through the whole design phase, right? And basically, like I like in a nutshell, begin with like wireframes, right? And then I
hmm
sort of like build up from there, build more high fidelity sort of wireframes, prototypes, right? Using
hmm
Sketch. And with Swift UI, like I can skip that process now. I just sketch things out on my iPad, and then I can jump straight into Xcode and then build out that dummy prototype. And the best part is that like when I go to catch up with a client to like show them like how things are going, like how the app would look, right, without doing anything
Right.
technical, instead of showing them sketch wireframes, I can actually just load up the app on their phone and they can play with it without, like
Right.
I guess
Right.
like everything connected.
As
and
long as you
and
have like a
that's
live preview, even you could go that route. Yeah, totally.
yeah,
What
yeah.
you
And
mentioned you were sketching a bit on the iPad. What exactly are you doing on the iPad when you first draw out your designs?
I try to well, I'll start with a big square on the page, and then and then I kind of feel like I write some notes down on the side with I guess like how I want to I guess model the user flow of the app.
Okay.
I guess like starting points, like what users will be doing at particular points, how they can navigate, right? And then once I have that sort of brief flow chart out, and I might even go as like into the technical stuff if there's database stuff related to try and figure out how that all works. And then but usually it's just like design stuff, like
hmm
the flow charting, and then I get into the wireframes. And every time I think of an idea, I'm always like I just jump on my iPad straight away and I start sketching because yeah, like if I go into
What app do
Xcode,
you use?
I've used Notability for the longest time, but
Okay.
lately I think it's with the other app that I'm working on now. I'm using GoodNotes, I think it is.
Okay.
There was like a sale on it, like half price, I think. So I thought,
Nice.
I'll try it out. And that's been like they're both great tools. Like you can't
Yeah.
fault either. They've been
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
Um, I wanted to ask a bit about some of the integrations you have in your app. You integrated with a third party app, Toggle, which
Mm.
I've used for tracking. How did that work out? And is there any risk? Do you see any risk in integrating with something like Toggle?
Um, With Toggle in particular, no, not really, because I've loved that tool for so many years now. I've been using it since 2014, 2015.
Yeah, I've used it
For
since I don't even know how long I've been using Toggle, but yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, it's been great. Like even like initially it was for tracking my own stuff because the design studio I was working with at the time, they were using it for client projects, right? And they like I liked like what they were doing with tracking their time, and I thought, oh, I'll try that as well. And then eventually, when I got around to doing my own freelancing, I used that to track client projects. And bill for that back when I was doing hourly billing, which I've since moved away from. So all I do use it now for is just getting an oversight of like how I'm spending my week on the computer.
Exactly.
Yeah. So having used it for 7 years now, and also I've like reached out to the team a couple of times. I've helped them out with a couple of things like a usability test, and they wanted some advice from me as well. Like over the last year. Like I know they're a great team and they're reliable, and they have an open source API as well, so it's easy to see. Sorry, no, they don't have an open source API. They have open source frameworks that interact with the API, but the API documentation is really, really, really great.
It is really solid, yeah.
Yeah. So integrating that with Focused Work, like since I track my time all the time, right, and I'm using Focused Work to track my focus sessions, it was a no-brainer to have that linked up, and two birds, one stone kind of mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
With Toggle, yeah.
Do you want to talk about more marketing stuff, or do you want to talk about more API stuff?
Geez, both are a can of worms. I'll let you pick your poison.
Okay. Well, how do you get people to notice your app? First of all, let's start with the beta testing part of it. How do you even get beta testers for your app if nobody knows about you and your app? I guess
sharing. That's the most important thing, and that's something I tell a lot of other developers that are looking to create their own apps. Right, is to get on the sharing bandwagon as soon as possible. And I distinctly remember with Focused Work, it was in, what was it? Like I started building in March 2020, and about June, July, I'd been hacking away for a few months at that point, and I had like the general idea of what the app was going to look like and work, like coded out pretty much at that point, right? But it wasn't ready for test flight. But I thought, you know what, I just felt compelled to just get something out there and see what would happen. I was expecting crickets, honestly, and so I created a thread on Twitter. It's probably about like a 6-part thread, and in the descriptions, well, first of all, like I took screenshots of the app, right? Just bare bones screenshots. And then I think I had 2 screenshots per tweet. And then I wrote a description that was like that added additional context to those screenshots about how the app worked. And I didn't have like I said, test flight wasn't like test flight build was months away at that point, maybe 1 or 2 months, because everything was kind of just hacked together. And I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to share it one day. And then I posted it on Twitter, and it was pretty funny that like my phone for a good 6 hours would not stop buzzing, that I actually had to like put it on vibrate and stick it in another room, because I think people just started liking it and sharing it.
That's awesome.
And very quickly, probably like the first half an hour to an hour into that, I realized that I should totally get a mailing list sorted, so I could, like people like seem to like things and find it like find things like pretty cool and stuff, right? But once it's out of their mind, they forget about it normally, right? But having that mailing list was like an entry point for me, I guess, to reach out to them when a test flight build was up. And yeah, at that time, I was speaking to other indies as well on Twitter. And they, helped out with a few like likes and retweets and stuff, just to, I guess help spread the word a little bit more. And that was how I got my first beta testers. And I left that that thread up on my Twitter profile. I pinned it for probably, I don't know, 2-3 months afterwards. And I just kept getting not signatures. I kept getting emails, people signing up saying they're keen to try the app when it's out, right? And because I had such a big wave come in, there was no way I was going to push out the app to like 500 people, because the next day, if, hypothetically speaking, if they use the app and they decide to email me, that's 500 emails I got to deal with, right? And that's just like the
Mhm.
initial icebreaker conversation. So I figured, like I'd sort of phase that out and start with, 10 people first, then
Yeah.
another 10 people every week. And then I expanded that to 20 people. And then I dealt with the feedback I guess, like responded to emails and like started conversations. And most importantly, it allowed me to, I guess, have a proper conversation with each and every person. I get to like understand, why they like the app or what appealed to them the most, right?
Mhm.
To give me context on what I should be focusing on, because like
Yeah.
I've got my own idea of what I want to build, right? But if like a cohort like starts like preaching something in particular that's like super important that I should like either add or optimize, right? Like I need to steer my attention towards that in order to leading up through that, like, I guess like through the beta phases to launch, right? That I'm launching my MVP with a punch, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Have the best chance. Yeah.
Do you think if you didn't get that much of a reply, would you still be working on the app?
Um, like
Like,
I
was that
definitely
a
would
good
have.
way? Was that a good way to find out and garner interest in the app and know, okay, yeah, this is not an app idea that's going to go anywhere?
Well, so I started building the app in March 2020, right? And that's just as the world started turning to shit.
Yeah.
I
Right.
guess that
Right.
was a little bit after actually, but like in Australia anyway.
Right.
When things started locking down, and I did actually lose like quite a bit of client work I had lined up going like at the start of 2020, right? So yeah, working on like it was a once in a, I guess, a lifetime opportunity to drop everything and work on my own app, right? And like I probably, like that being said, I would have stuck through and like at least launched the app because I always wanted to, I guess, see things through from end to end. And that like you touched on before, how like I was doing quite a bit of writing about like the whole process of doing everything. Yeah, the name of that blog was actually launching an indie app, right, which is like a 14-part blog series about I guess going through the idea, conception, design, development, beta testing, marketing, pricing, launching on the App Store, right? So I wanted to at least see this app through, and I guess like things that I could, like things that I had learned at each step, and I guess like also it like keeping track of stuff that didn't work so well. Like at least if I was capturing that information and writing it down in blog format, for one, it would help me the next time I build my second app, but it also like help out other indies or up and coming indies, right? For jumping on. So yeah, I would have stuck through and released it either way. Either yeah.
Um, what do you have anything that you wish you had known before you had gotten started with the app? And not technical, but more in the marketing sense, I guess.
Um, hmm. I probably would have like. Well, see, I'm naturally a developer, right? I'm not a marketer. Um, so trying to make efforts with that is just naturally hard. And I often find having to set myself like I guess like goals to actually spend time focusing on it, because coding is my comfort space, right? Creating marketing material isn't. It's
Yep.
just how I am, right?
Yeah. I'm in the same
So
boat. Like it's not I have to figure out if I can engineer it and code it,
mm,
then if there's a way I can make the marketing programmatic, then it's not such a challenge for me. But yeah, I'm in the same boat where it's like it's really hard to like figure out the message and the
mm,
story behind the app. So I totally understand that.
but yeah, like I feel like it's hard to say because like I feel like I did the right steps early on. I started sharing, started talking about it.
Hmm.
Created a well, I was
Maybe
basically an open book the whole time, right?
yeah.
Yeah, but I guess if I had
What
my time
what
again, oh
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah, there we go. Go ahead. That's exactly what I was going to
yeah,
ask.
if I
If
had
you're
my
going to
time,
do it again, how would you do it differently? Yeah.
I would, knowing that I was building a productivity app, I probably wish I had spent more time in the online productivity communities to, I guess, really feel like get a feel of what it's like at ground level for everyone else that uses those apps. and especially when it comes to time where you need to talk about your app, if you go through like each of the different phases, then you get to marketing, and it's like, oh, post on Reddit, post in Discords and stuff, blah blah blah, right? If you just do that out of the blue, like, you're gonna get banned or kicked out of those groups. And
Right. You have to be very careful about that. Yeah.
I wish I had built more rapport with the admins in those specific communities early on. I even looped them in to, because like I guess you can consider them as gatekeepers for those communities, right? And if you get them on board and they're really keen to talk about or use your app and talk about it, right? They'd be more lenient about like sharing, I guess, like the good word to their people. I wish I'd done that. I guess, looking back, and then that way when I launched the app, instead of just having like only the Twitter buzz and I guess like the email list buzz, which is pretty big when I launched, right? But having like people from like the productivity communities talking about it. That there's a lot of people out there that use productivity apps. There is so many people, right? And like I feel like if I could have cracked that egg a lot sooner, that would have like really I guess like been super helpful with getting my or getting Focused Work more well known quicker.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think you should like find the audience of your app and like target those stupid PHP forums or subreddits. I think that's super helpful in getting advice and understanding like the audience better. Yeah, I mean, I agree totally. I wish I would do that more often as well.
I remember, I thought like, sharing to the Apple subreddit was a great idea. I went on the page. I'm like, oh, look, there's like 5 million people that visit here. Let's give it a shot, and then they were doing their promo. I think it was promo Sunday
Friday or something.
They changed the dates, but like they let indies post what they're working on once they've launched their product, right? And it's that was a very good wake up call to how I guess the internet can respond to things that they don't like in your app, in particular.
Yeah, especially Reddit. I mean, that's my fear with any audience is like you don't like how do I put it? There's too much, especially on the internet. There's like the culture of people who are like snobs in whatever they're in, and it's like, oh, I would be worried about going into like a productivity group and they like scoff at the fact that you're using Pomodoro. Pomodoro is so 2006. Nobody uses that. You may as well use GTD if you're going to be into that. Like they're just like kind of snobs. Like that would be my worry with any subculture. Right? Every subculture has their snob, right? It's like
it's a hive mind mentality. It's interesting. Like I follow a bunch of subreddits, and like I see it on the Star Wars subreddit all the time. And like I even the like locally speaking, like the AFL subreddit, which is like the Australian Football League, right? As communities grow, right, you have those people like into the community in hordes. Right. But I guess like. It's an internal thing to filter out the noise, which is like the not so nice comments, but the nice comments and the like they're the ones that stand out, and they make me feel really happy, right? And like they're the type of people that I might even go the next step to actually reach out and DM them and stuff.
Yeah.
And have a chat with them, which is great because you never get to you never know who you'll meet someday, right? It's the same with Twitter as well. When I was building Focused Work, I didn't just meet other developers, right? I met other people that found the app because it's a great productivity app, right? And I for a point, early days in Twitter, like if someone would sort of say something about the app or DM me or even follow me on Twitter, I would actually go and individually reply to every single person and just simple aspect like, hey, thanks for following, how's it going, right? And yeah, I guess like feeding off those good vibes. Like you never know who you meet, right? And like it makes the I guess like
you DM everybody that follows you.
I used to. Now it's like I'd be spinning. It'd be a full-time job doing that. I'm not tooting my own horn about that, but like like it's I've got only so much time during the day because like when I want to like speak to someone and have a chat with them, I don't want to just be like, hi, how you going? That's it, right? Like
Right.
I wanted to, well, early on, I wanted to really get to know people and stuff. And there's people that like I started chatting with, yeah, like what was it, a year and a half ago that I still speak to this day, because of that. And I made some good online friendships. And yeah, it's a shame that because I'm down in Australia, there's not many other indies around here, so I can't really hang out with other people like in that space. So I guess like yeah, having that sort of chat and bant and stuff on Twitter, yeah, it's been a stopgap and a great sort of yeah, fix for that.
How has like writing about your journey helped you um, be able, like, just helped you continue to be an indie developer and come up with your next app and follow a process?
Um, I think it's helped me articulate my ideas better, and I guess realize if I'm just talking bullshit, like what I'm just saying just is
Mhm.
just silly. Without having to speak to another person and have that, I guess that like that look. It's been yeah, they're great to I guess like get my ideas out and then I can reflect back on them at another time. And like with my blog series, I've stopped writing now because like each like I wanted to make sure each article was just like the best it could be. Right, it took a lot
Mhm.
of time to actually go through and like proofread it as well and make sure fix everything up and attach like contextual pictures and videos and stuff. But ever since I finished the blog, I've actually like I built a habit like keeping notes every day. So when I first started on focused work, right, every single day I opened up like I created a Notion document at the start, right, and every single day I'd go in and I'd type in the date at the top, and then I'd do dot points of everything I worked on. And I'm like
Nice.
I
That's an
haven't stopped
awesome
doing that.
habit.
Yeah, like I haven't stopped, and
Mhm.
that was what like I guess the content in the launching an indie app series was from this I guess like every well my brain dump pretty much, right. And
Mhm.
ever since I've finished those articles, I've actually continued to write every single day in my own little journal, right. So I'm up to like day 620, 20,
Oh
30
wow.
maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, so like it's been a great like I've realized now that I'm like hundreds of days in, it's a great way to command F back to some point in time when I had an idea, right, or if I
Right.
worked on something, and I can just quickly flick back to like problems that I faced, like what I did to I guess like promote the app in a certain way or experiments, but more importantly like tracking everything that I do. Um, and like understanding whether it paid off over time. Yeah, and it's also like obviously helped improve my written English skills. Like speaking is one thing, right? But typing things out in a way that people find it easy to read and understand your ideas, that's another challenge in itself. And yeah, it's great that like I jumped into like Grammarly quite a bit, right, to fix up everything. Every time I'd post a blog post, it fix all the typos, and there were a few things here and there, but
Yeah.
like doing that, like maybe sort of get a sense of like how to structure paragraphs in a way that are
Mhm.
more sort of like engaging. And I think I need to promote that blog series more because like in the last 6 months I've been a bit lazy and I've like attached it to my Twitter page and stuff, but it's like I feel like there's like so much to share in that, right? Because I go through everything in detail. And like a big reason why I created it in the first place was that when I first started out building focus work, there are a few blog posts here and there about particular parts of like creating an app and
Mhm.
and selling it, right. But they're very high level. There wasn't something that really like helped out with a process. Like for example, like launching on Product Hunt when you're ready to publish your app, right? Like you know that well people know that Hunt is a place that has a timeline of apps that launch every day, right. But figuring out like what's the right way to like pick all the low hanging fruit and make sure that like when you publish like at the right time, like you have the best chance of trying to rank up to I guess product of the day. And like something as niche as that is something that like I've covered in those articles. And there's so many like pricing decisions as well, like understanding how much like or I guess figuring out how much should I charge for my app. Like should I
Yeah.
do like upfront, should I do like lifetime only, in-app purchase. So I do monthly, yearly, and also having the mailing list early on as well. It really helped with me getting feedback on that. So when I guess like it came to launching, I didn't have to pick a random number out of the air, right? And then just like set that up on the App Store Connect page. I could just look at the data and then like, I did my little like pie charts and stuff to see
Yeah.
like the demographics of like what like would you pay for monthly? Would you pay for yearly? How much would you pay? But that being said, what I ended up settling on was a yearly fee for focused work and a lifetime fee, right? And I didn't pick monthly because everyone hated it. So I'm thinking, okay, it's gonna like not be good for the product early on. I'll just skip that and just do the yearly. I'll charge, what was it? I think it was like $10 US for the year, and then like I'll do $20 for lifetime, right? But yeah, fast forward to like 4 to 5 months later, I thought I'd run an experiment. Like, hey, how about I like raise the prices for yearly and lifetime, and yeah, I decided like there's like a low end gap there where like I could slot in like a monthly fee for like $4 or $5 a month, whatever it was at the time, and once I added that, people actually started selecting that more than
Yeah.
yearly and
I
lifetime.
remember a talk by Curtis, who does slopes at Release Notes, where he like started playing around with like daily subscriptions, and it was like crazy how like the fact it didn't matter that like they're gonna pay it every day. It was the fact that it was cheaper. That's all that mattered. And like he was able to get like so much more income just off of changing to like smaller and smaller subscription amounts, which is crazy.
Yeah, like I feel it's worth adding that option when you're launching out for the first time, even if people say they hate it. If they hate it,
Yeah.
then they won't select it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. But when I launched Focused Work and I shared it on the subreddit, right, on our Apple, I like that you got to be very careful on that sub when you got apps with subscriptions, because yeah, that like I've seen so many apps as well, like where the thread gets derailed quite early, right? And then the top comment is like subscriptions pass. And like when I launched, right, I said that I already
How
like
dare you? How dare you have an income building this app? How dare you have a living income?
I'm like, when I launched the app, right, like I had the yearly option, but right underneath, which is on like even the iPhone 8 screen, so you could see
Right.
everything clearly at a glance, right? There was a
Right.
lifetime option, but
Right.
the person scrolled down the page and saw yearly. Nah,
Yeah, that's nuts.
that's it, right? So, but still, like, I wouldn't let things like that deter you from pushing forward, because it was either for me deciding to add a trial option or add a monthly option. I'm like, well, I'll pick the monthly option because I can make money from it straight away. Like I can start to boost the monthly recurring revenue of the product, and get some sort of idea of like how many people are using the app every month, right? How many people are paying for it,
Yeah.
to sort of plan out whether it's like growing or not. Because with one-time purchases, it's just like it's great to have that like that early investment, but if you're still working on your app like 1, 2, 3 years down the track, right? And it turns out to be something that requires a lot of overhead over time, right? Like I feel like you're shooting yourself in the foot by only offering a one-time purchase. But
Yeah.
don't forget that's subjective to the product. Like if a product like is continually helping solve a problem for someone every single day or every single week, right? Then you can sort of like justify like a recurring subscription. But if it's like a simple utility, right? Then yeah, maybe like a subscription would sort of deter people away from wanting to pay for your app. Yeah. Yeah, it's subjective. Yeah.
So let's get a little bit technical here. I want to know, what are some of the crazier or more interesting APIs you've been working on or plugging into Focused Work?
This is gonna be fun. So I guess with Focused Work, I went down an absolute rabbit hole after I started launching the iPad app, right? I have gone through, and I think off the top of my head, so I've added widgets. So I had to learn WidgetKit. and at the time there wasn't a lot of documentation for it when I was experimenting. And that was just like trying to get my head around like having like those widgets update every so often.
Mhm.
Like it was a bit annoying because with focus work you have like a running timer, right? And
Right.
and as you progress through each of the stages within a focus session, like you switch from a focus work stage to a break stage, you need to have that widget react to, I guess, that state change. And
Right.
yeah, if you're like having your app backgrounded at the time, like it prevented that from happening. But luckily, I found a couple tricks to get around that, only because of some other features that a focus work is using to sort of allow the app to continue running in the background and update that state
Nice.
change. So widgets, yeah, that was a big one for me. And then I think from there I moved on to shortcut support and understanding intents, Siri intents, and um, like what I guess learning how to communicate through like with like the database layer and stuff. Like I guess asking Siri to I hope that's not going to ping my devices. Asking voice assistant to
Oh, okay.
start a session, start a session or pause a session, restart it, and
Don't worry
have the
about
app
that.
react.
My you know who, it'll like pick up even when I don't say the name. So, at this
Uh,
point, I just don't even care anymore.
my
So
watch has
don't worry
done it
about
right
it.
so far. Usually it starts talking to me randomly
I know. I
when I'm
know.
talking
I
to
know.
people. So, um, yeah, and then yeah, so shortcuts getting that in was awesome because then you could start automating like when to start a session.
Siri intent seems like a bigger deal than people realize. As far as doesn't that also affect the way like you work from like doesn't it affect the way handoff works too? As far as like if you're working on one app and you go to your Mac, it knows that you're working on that app and it'll allow you to like basically go to that on your Mac to where the state is on the app on your iPhone.
Yeah, well, with handoff, that's actually something I have on my bucket list that I do want to add. Transferring a current focus session from your phone to your Mac, right, and vice versa, depending like if you're switching contexts with like working on an overall task.
Yeah.
But so I don't know the ins and outs of it yet. But yeah, like it is handy. It would be cool if you could actually like ask Siri to transfer a focus session from your phone to your Mac rather than having to open it up and tap the handoff like buttons on either computer. But I don't think that's possible in its
Right,
current
right, right.
incarnation. But because they're explicit actions, right? Like with the Mac, you got to go to the dock and like click on like an app that pops up.
Right.
Um,
Well, I'm thinking of maybe it's NS activity is what I'm thinking of where you set that stuff up. But yeah.
Yeah,
Um
I hear that API is super awesome and super flexible and everyone loves it, right? But
yeah.
with me, all I've used it for is just sending simple parameters from a shortcut to the main app. So um like the second app that I'm working on now, I think I should mention what it is. It's called Ochi or Ochi, OCHI.
OCHI,
Basically
okay.
it's a spin-off of the app and website blocking feature that I've added to Focus Work over the last couple months, right?
Okay.
But it takes that idea to the next level compared to other apps that are on the store now. And a big thing for me adding to app was shortcut support because a lot of blocker apps out there at the moment, it's just you got to click on stuff and like initiate the blocker yourself. But I thought it would be cool if I could like start like if at that time I didn't want to run a focus session with focus work, right? But I still wanted to
Mhm.
block like distractions outright. I love the idea of like starting a block on my Mac and then it would block out like apps and websites, but also automatically start the block on your phone. So if you're like focusing on like for example writing a document on a computer, right, and you've got your phone nearby, right, and for, like sometimes you can't get rid of your phone. Like if you're waiting for a phone call or a message, right, it's gotta like stay on your desk, right, but it's
Mhm.
there to distract you, right. The idea of like blocking apps when you got to use that, like like just automatically between the two, that was like scratching my own itch. Uh, that's another idea of scratching my own itch, right? So I could sort of like avoid going on Twitter on my phone when it's already blocked on my computer,
Right.
just covering that on all my other devices.
Could
And
you now are you tapping into like the new screen time API for that at all?
so Screen time API, I wish, and I had high hopes for that with iOS 15, and
I was gonna say,
yeah,
I'm really curious about it.
yeah, it was it's a bit of a disappointment to see
Okay.
how little improvements came out for that. Like I thought that would have been absolutely fantastic if you could block, like choose what you want to block, like through the screen time APIs, and I guess like adjust that or turn it on and off,
Right.
because in the past when I've used screen time, you've got to go in and like manually configure it and you got to set up schedules and stuff, but there was no simple way just to turn it on and turn it off.
Mhm.
And I think even with Focus, you can't do anything. And there's no shortcuts as well to interact with the screen time uh, API as well. So you can't even say like turn on, like disable this, like, particular apps for like, like a few hours
Yeah.
um, on and off, right? So yeah, huge
That's
disappointment for
disappointing. That's like
that.
the I think screen time could be really useful, and I think like it's along with like the new focus stuff. Speaking of
Mm,
focus, the new focus stuff in iOS 15, I just don't have the time to like set all that stuff up for different like focus groups and like all that. You know what I
mm,
mean? Where it's like,
yeah.
oh, you can set up a custom one instead of home and work, and it's like, or sleeping or whatever, and it's like I just don't
Mm,
have the like I don't have the time to go in and play around with that stuff. So that's too bad that they
yeah.
don't like allow some developer interface into that. I don't know.
But
But
I'll
yeah.
tell you what, like Focus has been amazing, like the feature. It's it allows me to actually run automations on all my devices, and that's where with Oki that I can like I can't have my Mac app talk to the iOS app to say do this, right, because
Mhm.
like if you're not using an app on your iPhone or your iPad and it's like locked, right, nothing's going to happen. It won't respond. It's sleeping until like a user like explicitly opens up the app and starts interacting with
Mhm.
it, and then it'll start fetching data, or if there's anything that's changed, it'll apply it then, right? But with Focus, what I've done is that um and leveraging the Siri intent as well, is that I can set up a like an automation on my iPhone. So, like for example, when the personal focus is turned on, right, I can have the app wake up temporarily and write to the local database in the app to say enable this filter, even for like indefinitely, or enable it for like
Mhm.
2 hours, right? So, if I just switch on focus on, like if I turn on the personal focus on my Mac, right, that would automatically cover my iPhone, and I don't need to even think about it, right?
Mhm.
I just know that like
Yeah, I do
I've
like that
blocked
a lot.
distractions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to get that out. Like I just actually finished the MVP for the Mac app last night. I was up till pretty late just grinding it out. I wanted to get it done, and then
Nice.
yeah, once that's now that that's pretty much wrapped up, yeah, I'm gonna like just clean up the UI for the iPhone and the iPad app, right? Because at the moment everything's sort of laid out for the Mac app, and
Right.
being a universal app, I can just quickly just mock up screens and just move things around here and there. But
The power of Swift UI.
yeah, like it's insane. It's insane. Like I wish the APIs for blocking were as easy to use as Swift UI, because I'll tell you what, that was its own can of worms as well. Having to uh like you're gonna love this. I had to use to block websites on your Mac, right? Because there's no native APIs for it. I had to use AppleScript, and I had never used AppleScript before, so I had to learn it. And gee,
This is
that
why
was
you were asking me
painful.
questions about AppleScript. Oh
Yeah,
man.
that was
Okay.
just geez. Like I thought it was annoying learning Java in first year uni as my first programming language, but
Mhm.
geez, with AppleScript, like it's you gotta like I'm so used to like how things are written in like Swift and Kotlin these days
Yeah.
that like
Well, you
right.
have to do AppleScript. Like I'm surprised considering AppleScript is probably not long for the world. There's no
Yeah.
alternative to do that.
Well, it depends. Like, there is another way to block websites, and it's if you want to interface with the networking layer on your Mac, and
Right.
that's like learning other frameworks like Swift and IO,
Okay.
which
Okay.
and understanding like intercepting
Right.
HTTPS connections, and I
Right.
tried that as well, and that was just like I'm
Rocket
not a
science.
networking person. That just bored me, and like I just
Right.
yeah.
Right. There's a app that I use. I can't think of what it is, but like when I when I need to be on my cell phone data connection, like I can block websites for that, so I don't take up all my data on my cell phone from my Mac, right? Like I'm tethered. And yeah, that's like a whole networking app, and it's a filter, and yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I wanted to keep it super flexible, and with the iOS side of things as well. There's no Apple script there, right? So I can't just use that same sort of that same technique. So I like when I launched that feature with Focused Work, the easiest way of going around about it, because the app was always working in the background, was to use content blockers.
Okay.
So when someone installed the app for the first time, as long as they went into Safari options and enabled the content blocker, right? If a focus session started and they had like specified a few websites for that session, right? Because you can create filters and assign them to focus sessions, that would just immediately block those websites, right? But to get content blockers to reliably update through like when automations are fired, like it just wouldn't work. Like I tried if you try to like initiate a shortcut in the shortcuts app and say I want to start a focus session, and that has an attached filter, right? The shortcut will wake up the app briefly to enable the content blocker. But if I tried to do the same thing through like an automation, so if I set up an automation to turn on that start a focus session, or like with Ochi, like starting a filter, right? It doesn't wake up the app. Like it doesn't when you try to call the API to refresh the content blocker, it just like, because it's not like the app or the shortcut linked to the app that's running the action, right? That threw that idea out, and which annoyed me quite a bit, because that meant I had to and for the longest time I avoided trying to learn Safari web extensions, because I'm not a web dev at all by any nature. And JavaScript, I've only like, geez, like I probably tinkered with JavaScript in first year, second year uni, right? Just doing your basic script. So it's if I can avoid learning another language for now, that'd be great. But I hit that wall with Ochi, because it doesn't run in the background. Like when you apply a filter, right? It only runs in bursts when you want to actually perform an action, right? So like over the last couple of weeks, I've had to like, grit my teeth and like figure out how to talk or how to communicate between the main app to the extension to like 3 or 2 layers of JavaScript files, and understanding how to redirect active tabs and stuff. So I've got it working there, which is great. But yeah, I'm looking forward to cleaning that up over the next week. Yeah.
Do you have a sign up page if folks are interested in getting a beta?
Well, actually, I hadn't. This is the first time I publicly announced what it is, right? Because of all the ambiguity with all the APIs, and I don't know if it was actually going to work.
Yeah.
Once I like this past week, I realized that all the APIs worked, and the idea of blocking, like initiating a block from your Mac and it works on your iPhone, or initiating a block on your iPad and it works on your iPhone. Once I got that, that's when I'd start talking about it. So I'm probably like over the next 2 days, and by the time your listeners are listening to this pod, I would have announced it at that point.
So we'll have that sign up page in the link in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll pin it to my Twitter page anyway. That'll definitely be up there. Like as I learned with Focused Work, right? Having that mailing list, or even if I get around to like creating an App Store page, because you can create pre-order pages now, right? Over the next couple of weeks, if I can get that approved, I'll have that linked into my Twitter bio.
Cool. So before we end, I have one more question for you. So you said you do a lot of freelance work. What skills in building focused work and doing your indie apps have you brought to your freelance work, as far as like what skill sets have made you a better freelancer when you work on client projects?
I'd say the ability to rapidly prototype and test ideas a lot faster, because I don't have to do the whole sketch overhead of creating like mock-ups to see how it actually looks on a device, and I don't have to use UIKit now to code up things and constraints, and or write up like I've stayed away from like auto layout and stuff now. I'm always like writing nested stack views and stuff, because it's how I do it in Android, right, with the linear layouts. But,
right.
Yeah, it's easy. But having I guess like the ability to rapidly prototype that stuff is great. I guess learning focus, like creating focus work and learning about all these APIs in the Apple ecosystem, I feel like it's held me in better stead that now if someone sort of pitches an idea to me, I'll know if it works rather than sort of like half guessing if something is going to work. Like I can
Mhm.
just, you know,
Yeah.
I'll be able to vet out like fun ideas to work on a lot faster now. And yeah, like that's probably been like the best thing about like creating focused work is that like it hasn't set the world on fire in terms of like being an event like a productivity app that everyone's using, right? But it's helped me like level up massively, not just from like the technical stuff, but like everything else around that, especially the marketing and like understanding how to pitch, like I guess pitch ideas, pitch what you're working on, and yeah, seeing I guess like how that all like fits in, right? It's like it's a big engine building an app. There's so many moving parts in it,
Yeah.
and you're always constantly having to refine that, right? And I think the balance is in the sweet spot that I'm trying to find is that I want to build apps that aren't like technically dense. So over time, they're still fun to work on, right? But it'll allow me to sort of expand my portfolio and build more cool ideas, right? That I can continue to like, take care of over time. And then, yeah, I guess like solve more problems for myself, other people as well. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes total sense. That's a fantastic answer. Thank you. Um, it's great having you on. So the next episode we're gonna have Jordan Morgan on, who's been on the show before, but he's also written
Mm.
extensively. I wish we had more of a chance to ask you about your CloudKit experience, because I know
Oh,
he has had quite the interesting CloudKit experience, which we'll get into in the next episode. But
it's good
yeah,
and bad. It's all right.
but yeah, thank you, Michael, so much for coming on. I really get to have you.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Thanks for the chat, and I just want to add at the end, there are a few people in the community that I want to give a quick shout out to as well. That I guess like I've met so many fantastic humans along the way, and I can't list them all because I don't want to forget people. Right? They all know who they are, but most importantly, there are 4 people that have had a profound impact on my indie journey to date, ever since I had started. Right. And those 4 people are Geordie Bruin, who's another indie developer who's created Soci, or was it Susi, sorry, and most recently Navi as well, that allows you to, I guess, like when you're on a FaceTime call, right? It's like live subtitles, so you can sort of like speak to other people in other languages, right? He and like I guess like someone else in like if you're talking to someone in Greek, right, and like you only speak English, right, you can sort of see what they're doing
That's
in real
awesome.
time. Yeah, that's watching like I guess like being able to talk with him in particular has been fantastic. It's helped keep me level headed and avoid myself from I guess going down the rabbit hole of doing silly ideas, right? And yeah, second shout out, Emmanuel Crovissier, who's created card pointers. Fantastic bloke as well, who's recently jumped on becoming a full-time indie. Massive inspiration to me. And he's helped me out in so many areas over time. We're just bouncing feedback off. Aaron Pierce, he's from New Zealand as well. He's created a whole bunch of HomeKit related apps.
I didn't know Aaron's from New Zealand. That's awesome.
Yeah. He's awesome. Yeah, he's been really helpful, especially with the in particular the bridging from iOS to AppKit. And like I guess like he shared how with me like how he sort of like did that, right, so he could like monitor his like HomeKit related devices. Yeah, really awesome. And
And then
the
we have
last
our
one.
previous guest.
Yeah, Mustafa, who's created tasks, right? Like equally as awesome as everyone else I just mentioned. And another indie that's made it full time now, right? And yeah, just being able to have some great conversations with him over the last year have been fantastic. I wish like each of these people were like working at the same co-working space because I just hang out with them every day. And I feel like, yeah, it'll just be like an amazing, environment every single day to work with. But Yeah, like I'm really appreciative to have met those 4 people in particular.
Yeah, Mustafa
And
was fantastic, and I know who you've listed is definitely on my roster of people I want to have on the show. So
oh yeah, please, like I'd love
eventually,
to.
yeah,
Yeah. There's some great chats there. There's so many amazing stories, I reckon, that you have.
yeah. Thank you so much. Where can people find you online, Michael?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. That's Michael_Tigas. And I'm pretty much like always sharing anything and everything related to my indie journey on there. So if like if you're already in indie or you want to sort of dabble your feet into the world of creating your own apps, right? Come say hi. Check out launching an indie app. I guess like if you need some sort of nighttime reading to that's quite fun to understand all the behind the scenes stuff of what it takes to actually build your own app, right? It'd be a great resource to follow along with.
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely check out his blog post, and we'll have links to all that in our show notes below. People can find me on Twitter at LeoGDN. My company is Bright Digit. Be sure to like and subscribe, share on social media. Also post a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you're listening. Thank you so much. And like I said, in the next episode, we'll be talking to Jordan again about his indie experience. Thank you for joining us, and look forward to talking to you in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Bye.